Hey, this is WTOP's Jason Fraley, and we are being joined by John Payne of Asia Featuring John Payne is the official band title, because I know there's a couple. And you're coming to Ram's Head, Annapolis on July 12th, so everybody get your tickets. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. I like the view we have.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I just did a show at one of the Canyon clubs here in California last night. I'm doing one tonight, and as part of our anniversary tour. So I'm sitting on a beautiful hillside in Woodland Hills, California.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we're excited for you to come and bring the band over to Annapolis in Maryland here. So I assume, tell me, let's start with the concert. I want to ask about your career and stuff in a second, but with the actual concert, is it going to be sort of like a greatest hits from, how do I say, all three phases, before you join, during your main run, and then your post 27?
No, it's not. That's what we normally do. So
Okay.
it occurred to me that on the 6th of June, it was 30 years since I joined the band.
Yeah.
And the first album that I did, Aqua. And then it occurred to me that 1982 also was the 40th year of the founding members.
Right.
And I've played all those songs, Heat of the Moment, Only Time Will Tell. So I thought, well, why not do a double anniversary? So we're going to play most of both of those albums.
Oh, cool.
Aqua, from Aqua Park Run, Who'll Stop the Rain, all through the Aqua album. And then we go and play the original Asia album backwards, because all the hits are at the end. So, you've got the big ones like Only Time Will Tell, Heat of the Moment, but we're doing all the other songs that were on that fantastic first album. So it's a really cool set. And I'm playing songs I've not played for 30 years.
Wow, that's going to be a treat. So it's a double anniversary. It's the 40th anniversary of the original Asia album in 82, and then the 30th anniversary of you joining the band for your first album with them, Aqua, in 92. That's really cool. How it all coincides like that. It worked. The math works out.
The math worked out, luckily. Yeah. The stars aligned.
Exactly. Well, cool. Well, whenever I have someone on, famous band like yourself, I always love to know your story. So I know you were born in England in what, 58. How did you get into music to begin with? Like, what sort of stuff did your parents play around the house? That kind of stuff.
Can you think about being born in 58? When I was 10 years old in 1968, there was a huge musical revolution, because guitar sounds changed from the Shadows, twangy guitars and surf guitars to these amazing guitarists all suddenly appeared. Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Carlos Santana, Jeff Beck. It was growing up as a 10-year-old in 68. It was incredible. And I'd already got the guitar bug a couple of years earlier, listening to people like, Deep Purple and Rory Gallagher and people like that. And my friends and I all started playing around in my garage at 8 to 10 years old, playing all these classic songs. And it was just a great, and I'd caught the bug. My parents were sending me off to medical school, and I had, this expensive education. And I just told them, bye, Mom and Dad, I'm going on tour.
Med school's not for me. The rock life is the way for me. I love it. So that means then, just moving slightly more chronologically, you're talking about being 10 in 1968. So then once we go into the 70s, you're probably listening to a lot of the bands, King Crimson, yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the groups that would come together, the members of those that would form Asia in 81 in London.
And I was a fan of all those groups. I was a fan of Asia, in the early 80s, when John Kolodner and David Geffen really put the band together. They wanted to form the first supergroup. And, as you say, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and those were some of the bands as a kid that I was listening to. And now with some other projects that I do, I work with a lot of the guys guest with us as well, like Lou Gramm from Foreigner, Mickey Thomas from Starship, and go out with those shows as well. But, joining a band that I listened to as a fan was kind of very daunting. Some big shoes to fill, especially with John Wetton, who'd been in Roxy Music, King Crimson, UK, and then of course Asia.
Yeah, and then Steve Howe and Jeff Downs were in Yes,
Yes.
and Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They all came together in '81. Do you know either from just playing with those guys or just the story being told over the years? Do you remember how they actually formed? Did they tell you that story?
Yes. Well, and it was Brian Lane, the manager of Yes, was very much part of it. And I know David Geffen had started this record company, and there's actually a really great documentary on David Geffen, how that he came from basically being a T-boy at a record label to actually running one of the biggest record labels, and they went through years of failure, and then all of a sudden, he signed people like Cher, and Geffen Records became huge. But I remember that Brian Lane put this band together. He'd had Yes, and Jeff Downs had come in from Buggles with Trevor Horn. As everyone knows, Video Killed the Radio Star, which we actually used to play at shows.
Nice.
And Steve Howe was brought in. They brought in Trevor Rabin for a while, and that didn't work out. They were looking for singers. Robert Fleischman, who was with Journey, he was found, and then they did all these demos, and then the band went, well, John went, why don't you be the singer? And he became the singer. But it wasn't like four guys that met up and got on great. It was like someone choosing their fantasy team. And John Kolodner, who I know pretty well, was a very famous A&R guy. If you look at a lot of rock records like Whitesnake, it always says John Kolodner, John Kolodner. He names he's named twice, and he's even in the Dude Looks Like a Lady video.
Really?
He's got this big long beard, Lennon-esque stature and glasses. But it really was, a big push by Geffen. And when it came out originally, some of the deep prog people were disappointed because John and Jeff had a very commercial writing aspect. Only Time Will Tell and The Heat of the Moment have pop sensibility,
right?
Which those other bands didn't happen. And that's why I think the band became so huge. They booked a tour of clubs when the album came out, and all of a sudden they were canceling the club dates and going to stadiums. So very much when I joined, Steve and Carl were part of it, as well as Jeff, and it was incredible being brought into such musical heritage.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned that there was a pop sensibility to some of those early songs. Do you know,
Yes.
did they ever share the story with how they actually wrote the lyrics and the riff and everything for Heat of the Moment? I mean, it's such a famous song.
Well, yeah, I don't know how the riff came about. I think that the riff probably came from John Wetton, because it's a very un-Steve Howe type riff. Steve played it, and he used, I believe, a Les Paul Jr. for that. But that's Steve's style is very, very quirky, and that's Heat of the Moment is big power chords, and I believe that came from John Wetton. I think Jeff and John Wetton used to write a lot around a piano.
Nice. Now I know, again, maybe one more question before, predating your time officially joining, but just so I have it for posterity, chronologically, the second album was Alpha. It had Don't Cry and other stuff on it. The third one was Astra in '85 that had Go and some others. How do you, in your understanding of, in hindsight, before you joined, how do you think they evolved from that smash hit, that popper sounding of the first album, Asia? How do you think they evolved from Alpha to Astra? Did they go more the prog rock route, or how do you see
it? I think they kind of didn't evolve, and that was one of the problems. When you're touring a lot, you got the second and third album, which are harder to write because you're on the road, and they got in a guitarist called Mandy Mayer after Steve Howe left, who had a much more rock sensibility. I mean, there's still great songs on those albums, but I think because the first album was so huge, it was seen as a disappointment. Oh, second album only sold 6 million. I mean, 6
Right.
million is huge, and maybe the third 3, but
Yeah.
you know,
Only 6 million. Yeah.
yeah.
It changed
Well,
the
the first
perspective.
album
Yeah.
selling 14 million.
Right.
And then, you know, I think the band became despondent, and those years from the third album, there was a compilation album that came out called Then and Now with a couple of new songs. But when I came along, it really, the band had been dormant for a while, and it was 10 years from the start, and we had a really good push in America, and Who Stopped the Rain was on the radio a lot and charted a lot in Europe. So it was a wonderful and a scary time for me.
Nice. Yeah. So now
I went on to do, a lot of people don't know I went on to do eight albums in 16 years in the band.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get into all that. But real quick, talk about, since I know this is also a double anniversary and you're celebrating 30 years of Aqua, which was when you officially joined on the band. I guess you joined as, you know, singer and bass player in 91, but the album came out in 92. Talk about, you know, putting together that first album. There's big shoes to step in, of course. But
to step in. Yeah, I'd met Jeff at a recording session with my then bass player, Phil Spalding, who was in a band called GTR. And they had some big hits with When the Heart Ruled the Mind, and Hunter and stuff. And Jeff and I hit it off, and we put a project together called Rain, and a manager called Larry Mesa, who managed Kiss, went and shopped it around, and there was interest, but there was more interest in getting back the name Asia. So Jeff approached me in 91 and said, would you like to join Asia? I'd been working with ELO Part 2.
Nice.
And I was kind of like, do I want to do this? It's big shoes to follow. You know, it's when you're the new boy, like, I mean, Brian Johnson and, you know,
AC/DC, yeah.
AC, you know, he's still seen as the new boy, you know.
Even though he sings some of their most iconic stuff. It's funny how that works. Yeah. Second guy.
I was like a little bit of trepidation. I said, give me 24 hours. And then I remember talking to some friends and go, you're crazy. Do it. I did it. And it was extremely hard at first because the bass parts that John played on those original songs, a lot of them are very against the lead vocal. And it's one of those things where you have to be doing this at the same time, you know.
Patting your head and rubbing your belly, yeah.
You're singing a 16th beat off the bass part. So it was very cool. And we had a couple of demos that we'd worked on. And then we were ensconced in the studio, Advision Studios, which is a very famous studio in London. And in Brighton, we spent 6 months on the album, like solid, every day.
Wow.
And, you know, that's why it's such a huge production. And singing some of those songs, like last night, singing Love Under Fire or Someday or Who'll Stop the Rain. It's like I've gone back 30 years. Sadly, physically, I haven't.
Well, time is undefeated on all of us, my friend. But the music still probably feels like yesterday.
And I can still sing them. You know, I'm been very lucky that I'm a person that loves to sing every day. And like an athlete, you have to, especially with some of this rock stuff, you have to keep your voice in shape. So touch wood, I got a show tonight. Got some cool friends turning up as well at the Canyon Club here in LA. But I'm really looking forward to playing the Ram's Head. It's been a long time since we played there.
Oh yeah, and we are excited to have you. And so this band it always is titled as Asia Featuring John Payne. That started, I guess, in 2007. Like, wasn't there like a split slightly in a couple of different versions?
So what happened was John went and wanted to come back, and it was anniversary, and it was a slightly sticky situation, but because I'd been in the band for so long, and I wanted to do a double tour, but that wasn't going to be accepted. So, like, it's like thinking if original Joni got back together, you can't stop that train, you know.
Right, exactly.
It'd be huge. So that we all came to an agreement where, you know, I would still be able to use the name, but make it very clear that it was my version.
Sure.
You know, and I actually hate the moniker, especially when I'm doing, you know, like homo stuff. "Hi, this is John Payne from Asia Featuring John Payne." So I was talking about myself as a third party. In retrospect, I wish we'd come to an agreement like calling it Asia Part 2 or Mark 2.
Sure.
Like they kind of unofficially did with Deep Purple. They did like Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3.
Right.
But we still pay homage to the original songs. I've got great respect for the original lineup. And I think that this band that we've got now is a very cool band. And it's, I mean, Alex Garcia, who actually works with a huge artist called Bad Bunny.
Of course, we know Bad Bunny.
Yeah. So he's playing with us and Bad Bunny. So
oh, cool.
From clubs and sheds to stadiums with Bad Bunny. So, but the band is great. Everybody sings. All the harmonies are there, and all the original arrangements are done. We've not messed with the arrangements. I want people to think they're like listening to the album.
Sure.
Apart from my interjections of talking in between the songs, which my manager usually shuts me down because I often go off on a tangent.
Yeah, but people love hearing the little tidbits in between the songs. So
you know, if you're going to see a band, you want to be drawn in and be like talking to an audience as if it's one person. And I think if you want to just play the record and be a Steely Dan, fine. And Steely Dan's one of my favorite bands. But
awesome, yeah.
If you want to entertain people, I think you need to find that connection. And so it's not like listening to the record. You want it to be musically sounding as good as the record, but you want that, I'm being part of this thing. And that's why the audience feedback is very important to me too.
It's kind of like what we're doing here, except, music in between. You're talking to the audience.
Exactly.
Yeah, you mentioned their feedback. Do any of them ever, obviously they're there to see all the Asia stuff, but does anyone come up and say, hey, I was a fan of GPS too? Like, do anyone talk about
that happened last night.
Really?
Someone was calling out for some GPS songs. I've got another band as well that's kind of a project with my very good friend Eric Norlander called Dukes of the Orient.
Yeah.
And those things. GPS did do a couple of tours, and it was a great band. Two of the members are now, one's gone on, Jay Chillen, joined Yes, and the other one, Guthrie Govan, is probably one of the most incredible living guitarists now. He's working with Hans Zimmer at the moment.
Wow. Hans Zimmer, wow, yeah. And of course we should tell everybody the name GPS is from the initials of your three.
Govan and Chillen, So but this really is a dream come true doing this tour. And I even did some different artwork other than the main artwork with Aqua Dolphin on, that I'm a big fan of Bill Grant Presents. So I've actually designed my own poster that's like, I don't know if you remember those Fillmore days in is with all the funny curved writing and stuff. So I've done a little new poster, but the set list is not really going to be much left off. It's between a 90-minute and a 2-hour show. And back in the day, I don't think you could put more than 45 minutes on an album.
Right.
I don't know if you remember a C90 cassette, you could put one album on one side, another album on another side.
Right.
I think Aqua's longer. I think Aqua's 75 minutes long, but the original album's 45. So it's just so much fun doing these songs.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you get fans from different generations, that people maybe played it for their kids and now they come to your shows. Like, what is sort of the, how do you think the next generation sort of discovered pop culture? I'm sure Heat of the Moment show. I've seen it in like South Park, 40-Year-Old Virgin. Like, do you ever come up to Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen and say, hey man, and give them a hard time back? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I have not bumped into those guys, but, I was featured on Family Guy,
nice,
singing "Only Time Will Tell."
Nice.
And the creator of that show, he's a genius. So
Seth,
Seth, and I wrote to him, and he did send me a cell, and said, "Here's a cell, as long as you're not going to sue me." They get sued, and funny enough, in that one, Kevin Cronin is with me. They're looking for a joke on Family Guy, and Kevin Cronin goes, let's play a song. And he goes, no, my wife gets all the royalties. He goes to me, Peter goes, for that, we're just going to do 5 minutes of Asia doing Only Time Will Tell. So they had me doing Only Time Will Tell. And I actually did a gig with Kevin, with Ario Speedwagon abroad somewhere in the Bahamas. And we got backstage and we actually did a picture together that matched the Family Guy thing.
Oh, nice. You recreated the cell animation. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, Heat of the Moment's iconic, spinning a load of movies, as you say, 40-year-old virgin. And the poster was on the wall.
Yeah.
Won't go there with what they said about the poster.
No, that is one of the elements that, you know, it's only been 17 years, but a lot's changed in society, the jokes they made in that movie.
Yes.
But it's a little outdated now. But anyway, the pop culture is still there of Asia getting exposed to the new.
Yeah, and we do get that. We get actually grandchildren of people who bought the original album. You know, you've got our shows are mixed from like 18, 19-year-old guitar nerds to 75-year-old CEOs of companies, and it's wonderful to see that. And awesome. You know, we've always been like a muso band as well, so you'll get a lot of folded arm young guitarists just standing there looking at the guitarist going like, well, impress me, can you play this? And some of the stuff's complicated to play. You know, we've had some amazing guitarists in the band. Al Petrelli, who's in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, he played most of the guitar on Aqua. Cool. Guthrie Governors, I've mentioned, Steve Howe, Elliot Randall from Steely Dan. You know, it's always been a boiling pot changing, but as vocalists, it's really only been myself and John Wetton, and with one show with Greg Lake. Yeah. In fact, there's a song that and Greg's sadly not with us anymore, from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. There's a song that's number 3 in the set, which is, we're playing it chronologically on the album, called Love Under Fire, and it's a brilliant song, and it's written by Greg Lake and Jeff Downs. And Greg said, would you like to do this song on the Aqua album, and brought it to us, and it's a phenomenal song. So we're doing that song as well, and I think for a lot of people, of followers, I never say fans, I hate the word fans, but of my era, they've always like, well, can't you play some deeper tracks? You know, we know Heat of the Moment, we know Only Time Will Tell, we know even know Who'll Stop the Rain, but now this is a time for people to hear like songs off the first album, like Without You, Cutting It Fine, and then, you know, Someday, Lay Down Your Arms, Heaven on Earth, which we'd never played live with Asia from the Aqua album. We're playing all these deep tracks. Yeah. So, the guys at the Ram's Head should see an interesting show. After the show, I'm going to hang out, probably at the bar, have a few drinks with people. So people come along, bring your stuff to sign. Right. You know, and it's a very fun show. I want to get the crowd motivated and involved, and it's an iconic venue that's been around for a long time. Oh, yeah. We're excited to have you again, everyone. It's Asia with John Payne at Ram's Head, Annapolis. It'll be on July 12th. And as you said, you know, the 40th anniversary of that first album, Asia, with Heat of the Moment and everything, and 30th anniversary of your first album with the band Aqua in '92. So it's a double celebration here. So, hey, thanks so much for joining us, John. It was fun talking to you. Thank you for your time too.